Or lipstick anymore now that we're all remotely meeting.
All right, so we are going to go ahead and get started. I know it is a holiday, and I didn't think about that when we were all planning this as chambers. We didn't think this was President's Day and think ahead, and so I think that might impact us a little bit. But nonetheless, we're glad that you could be with us. I'm Carol Gieske with the Elgin Area Chamber, and so pleased you could be at our second of 5 of our Wellbeing webinar series.
Yeah.
These are being held every Monday from 4 to 4:30. Thanks to the generosity of Northwestern Medicine, and thanks, Anne Marie, for your role in all of this. We appreciate it. It's been really great to be able to work with many other chambers up and down the Fox River Valley, with Geneva, St. Charles, Huntley, Larry's here, Bartlett, Hampshire, Algonquin, Lake in the Hills, Cary Grove, Lynn's here, Northern Kane County, to bring this all together. So we appreciate everyone's help along the way. And of course, to our speaker today, Allison Johnsen, who is the manager of behavioral health at both CDH and Delnor Hospital. Love it, 2 locations. Not that you have a split personality, Allison, but we know how this goes in healthcare. I don't know how you handle it, but thank you very much.
You're welcome.
A little trying at times to do the things that you're doing. We're going to go ahead and record this, and hopefully we'll be able to record it well and then send it off to those chambers that are participating with us, and they can share it with their colleagues who'd like to join us. So it is my pleasure to introduce Allison Johnsen, who's the manager of behavioral health at both CDH and Delnor Hospital in St. Charles, to talk about mental health and well-being through holistic care. So we're really pleased to be able to focus on you as a member of our chamber, not so much your business, but as you personally, as we continue through the coronavirus, as we all wait for those vaccines to come our way, to manage the snow that's coming our way, and to get through what we need to get through. So Allison, thank you for joining us, and please go ahead and start.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Carol. And I just want to point of business is how I have 30 minutes, or is it more than that?
You do. 30 minutes, yes, ma'am.
All right, great. So just wanting to know from all of you, what do you need right now? I mean, this is a very broad topic, and I have some ideas about that, but I'd mostly like to know, for those of you who are on the call or on the Zoom today, what is it that you really need? Let me look. I'll share my screen with you here. Let's see, where are we? I have too many things open at once, of course. So let me share screen. Just give me a sec. There we go. Again. I'm sorry, you guys. I am a Teams person for Microsoft. So hence my sharing screen difficulty right now. So just hang in there. But if you want to, while I'm looking for this, you want to let me know kind of what is the most stressful thing that you guys are experiencing lately? There you go. We got it. Can you see this? Yep. Okay. Yeah. So what are you noticing in your own life? Can anybody be brave right now and step up and just say, as we have gone through the pandemic, it's almost like the pandemic is seeming like the new life that we're living. Like you watch movies and you see people without masks on in theaters, and it's really weird. So we've gotten used to this to some degree as adaptable human beings that we are. But one thing that I wanted, a few things I wanted to go over today are definitions of stress as opposed to the signs and symptoms of anxiety and depression. And it is a continuum along our symptomology from stress to anxiety to depression. Destigmatizing asking for help from a mental health professional if you or a loved one or just even a colleague is showing signs that they need that would be helpful. And then what really happens in counseling or therapy, when you go to a shrink, what does that mean? Like when you go to a therapist, what does that mean? And then how to take care of yourself well to prevent mental health problems. So that's, I'm going to flip through the first few parts of this pretty quickly, just because we have half an hour, and really get down to what can you do to help yourself. And so if nobody's brave enough to answer my question right now, I'm going to get you when we get there. How's that sound?
Allison, we did have something in the chat.
Oh, I can't pay attention. If somebody can pay attention to the chat while I'm manipulating the slides, I'd appreciate it.
I'd be happy to. And the question
Yeah.
was how to keep my own emotions in check as employees share their problems with me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a hard one, right? And that's something that as managers and leaders, we all need to learn to do no matter what. Is that if the leader is showing signs of distress, then the employees are more likely to show signs of distress as well. So it's kind of like a family system at work too. Like if, think about if kids know the parents, so to speak, are not okay, it really gives them a lot of anxiety. So you would probably want to share your distress with people who are safe to share it with at your level, instead of people on your team, maybe friends from outside, somebody that can listen to you talk about your distress and how your employees' situations may be affecting you. And you want to show them empathy, but you don't want to get right down in there and get all upset with them, because that doesn't help them feel reassured. They need a stable boss, somebody who's really okay. So what we're going to be talking about is self-care along the way here. And it's really hard to do good self-care, but if you don't do good self-care, you are not going to be able to be as calm in general, as patient with people, as stable. So self-care is about all those things, and that's what you need to maintain. So if you're having trouble with that, I suggest talking to your EAP. If you find yourself too affected by either, your employees or your patients' stories, in our case, it's our patients, then one can learn how to not take that in and kind of leave it outside of you, but be empathetic. It's a learned skill, and therapists need to learn it all the time, or we'd never be able to sustain in the profession. And during times like this and crises times, it's something that you get thrust into. So we can talk about some ways to do that as we move along here.
Excuse me, Allison.
Yeah, hi, Bo.
Hi there. If you're a small company
Mhm.
and you don't have an EAP, then how do you get help? How do you reach out to a professional counselor or a psychologist or someone like that? And how do you discern who would be a good one to go to?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I would say somebody who knows cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy is very solution focused. It's about changing how you think and how you feel, is in reactivity to situations. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. I don't know who can get through therapy school, graduate school, without learning that, but some people use it more often than others. You can ask your primary care physician, say, hey, do you have any good therapy recommendations? Because trust me, your primary care doc, your family docs, they have had to refer before. You can call behavioral health department at your local Northwestern Medicine Hospital. We frequently refer people for the once a week type counseling. We know who the counselors are in the communities that we live in. And if we don't, we have search engines to help search by your insurance company, the kind of thing that you need, your location, to help narrow it down. But if you know someone else in your life who's had therapy, a good referral from somebody you trust is good as well.
And Allison, if I
All
might
those
add to
ways.
that, I know our community, and I'm sure many communities, replicate a crisis line that's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so those crisis lines are available if you don't have EAP, as well as the state of Illinois at the very beginning of the coronavirus issue did set up a hotline for folks who could access that with professional counselors at the other end. And I don't have that 1-800 number, but I know that's on our website and other websites of chambers who have coronavirus resources. And Allison, there is another question in here. Rest is my issue. Working longer and not as well rested as I would like to be.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, that doesn't help you sustain pressure at all, right? I mean, it can crack us if we don't get enough rest. So I'll get to that in a sec, but just look
Okay.
at all the stuff that we do all the time. I mean, this is, just take that COVID quarantine and isolation stuff out of that slide. All the rest of it is stuff we always need to work on. And, you know, so, but anybody who's heading a business, not only do you have your own self and all your own lifestyle stuff to manage, all your people are going to be coming to you with their stressors. And when there's a pandemic, everybody's resilience is a little worn off at the edges. And so you're under more pressure too as a leader. Absolutely right. So we try to get ahead of everything by working more. But if we're shorting our sleep, that is going to backfire. And I did that last year and I got pneumonia. So I know I have a tendency to keep going and push through. Well, you can only do it so long before your body tells you that that's enough. And if you don't pay attention, then it'll get you more. So, you know, sleep is probably the most important thing that you can do for your body during times of pressure, because your brain actually repairs itself while you sleep. And so if you are going to avoid anxiety or depression, you need to be sleeping well. Otherwise, your serotonin levels will decline and decline and decline, and then you'll start showing symptoms. So sleep is the most reparative, restorative, probably followed by exercise. If you want to do two things, and you don't have to hit a gym and sweat your rear end off. You can just make sure you're moving. And that is to take a walk, even outside, you know, even the way it is right now, bundle up. I mean, the Norwegians don't stop, you know, we don't have to either. Because this goes into this. So you see the vertical axis is performance, rising performance, and the horizontal axis is stress arousal. So if you're going up that curve towards the hump is the point of departure into being distressed. If you're going down the right-hand side of that, you're in distress. So if you push past fatigue, maybe 1 day, 2 days, you know, we can do it for a little while. But if you're only given 5 or 6 hours of sleep for a long, you know, a couple of weeks in a row, you're going to move into distress. You'll find yourself exhausted and you might get a cold. These days, it's so important to keep our immune health high because of COVID. And we want to be able to fight off things if we do contract something. So if your body is depleted, you will get ill faster and probably have worse symptoms if you do get ill. So we need a little bit of stress in order to like get ourselves moving. That's on the left-hand side. And then there's the comfort zone where we're not, you know, feeling anxious or tired. But then if we keep moving to the right and keep adding on, keep doing more and more, we'll fall ill. And it can be mentally, you know, we'll show signs, or it could be just how we treat our loved ones and our employees, our short-temperedness, you know, impatience. Are signs of exhaustion and distress too. And here's some more. I put in red, stress affects the immune system because it is so important right now to keep our immune health very, very good. So headaches, you know, all those physical signs, you know, not being able to sleep, that's, you know, it's usually anxiety that's creating that for us. If we can just prioritize sleep as not something that's nice to have, but something you need. I mean, all the studies are out that sleep is very much a way to prevent everything else. And then emotional signs of stress are just that feeling overwhelmed, like you're going to snap, or just isolating tendencies where, you know, you pull back because you don't have energy, but then you get lonely. You know, some of us are worriers. Angry, irritable, and critical is where I tend to go, along with impatience if I'm not getting the rest I need. Loss of sense of humor and unhappiness and crying. And then behaviorally, if you keep pushing and you don't get your sleep and your rest, you might be working a lot, but your productivity level might be dropping. In other words, it takes you longer to do things that you would normally do because you're fatigued, or your focus, fatigue creates lack of focus, lack of creativity and inability to make decisions. Or we develop compulsive habits like, maybe that wine, a lot of people have been hitting the booze a little bit more than normal to relax, or maybe they're eating to, I like the 10 o'clock, snack break, not good, right? Pick up the COVID 15, just like the freshman 15, when we were in school. So that's all, this is normal stuff that happens to us under stress that we have to be careful about. And now we're getting over into the clinical side of it. If you start developing symptoms like these, then we're looking at anxiety and something that might need to be treated. For instance, the racing thoughts that you can't stop them, the rapid heartbeat, nausea or diarrhea. Some people react to anxiety in the gut. Difficulty sleeping, insomnia is a common symptom for anxiety disorders. And then difficulty swallowing and a dry mouth, that's pretty much a fear-related response. And anxiety really is about fear, if you get down to baseline on it. And then easy startle response. Your body's just on hyper alert when you're clinically in an anxious state. And then on the other side, we've got clinical depression, and some people's personalities are more prone to this, some are more prone to anxiety, and then sometimes anxiety can lead to depression if it's untreated too long, and then you've got that terrible mixed feeling of being anxious and depressed. That's just the worst feeling in the world. So clinical depression is you feel sad or empty, and not just for, a couple of days, and not because of a really good reason like grief. I mean, grief is a normal response to loss, but all the symptoms, it can look like depression, and we treat it like depression too if it starts to debilitate someone. So read through those. Again, the concentration thing, not being able to sleep, feeling very tired and fatigued, like you're wearing one of those lead aprons they put on you for an x-ray all around all the time. That weight of life. Overeating or loss of appetite. If you start having thoughts of suicide, even something as simple as, that tree looks pretty good right there. If that thought goes through your head and like you wouldn't necessarily do it, but you start thinking, gosh, it'd be easier if I didn't wake up tomorrow, stuff like that. I mean, that's an indicator. That's what you call passive suicidal ideation. And people don't intend to act on it, and they know they won't. But if you're having thoughts like that, that's a solid indicator that you're depressed. And then, sometimes the physical manifestation too. So not to scare y'all or anything, but clinical depression lasts a while. Like if you've been, sad or really low for more than a week or two, you might want to talk to somebody about this. Or it's definitely if it's gone on for weeks at a time. The other thing that happens too is that you might just not give a darn about things you usually would care about. I mean, that's a sign of mild depression. It's called anhedonia. It means the opposite of hedonism. Like hedonistic is like pleasure loving. When you have anhedonia, things that would normally give you pleasure, you don't care about at all. So usually your family members or your friends will tell you about this if they notice it. Like it's too much effort to go do something you would normally like to do because you just are too fatigued. And you definitely should seek the help of a professional before it becomes more serious. Because it will progress unless, people do something to get themselves out of it. Then it can be something simple. It might just be seeing a therapist, getting with people again, going outside, moving around again, but if you're home by yourself in your room and you're not talking to anybody, your thoughts have nowhere to go, but usually negative places. So you want to arrest the negative thinking. So how do you treat these two bad things? And then we're going to get into the good stuff about what you can do to prevent it. Go to the doctor, talk to your physician and see if they think you need antidepressants or whether you need psychotherapy. If you need antidepressants, you probably need psychotherapy. But a lot of times you can just try some counseling, learn some new ways of thinking, and maybe changing your habits, You know, how do you react to situations better? Do I need to get moving again? Do I need sleep med so I can sleep better, so I can get better? You know, all of that thing. So the physician would be able to evaluate that. And so would the behavioral health department at most major centers, you know, ours at Northwestern, and there are others, you know, in the area too, farther afield. But that's called an assessment. It's not a commitment, literally. And it's not a commitment as far as, you know, having to do anything, but you're finding out what a recommendation would be. Because navigating the mental health system is something that most people know how to do if they have a first onset of depression or anxiety. So a lot of people feel comfortable going to their doctor first. And then once you get into psychotherapy, it's completely up to you, you know, how long you would, you know, as long as you're benefiting, you might want to stay. If you're not benefiting, switch people, or, you know, say, hey, you know, I've really learned a lot. I'm good. Talk about how to keep from relapsing, and then you're on your way again. So you're not like signing yourself up for 2 years or Freudian 5 years, you know, that whole psychoanalytical. Counseling is about learning how to do something or think something differently so that you're better. That's what it's about. And then other treatments that might be prescribed for you are, you know, exercise, get moving again. It's very helpful for both conditions. And then light therapy. You know, you heard about light boxes. They are very helpful, especially in the winter months in the Northern Hemisphere. It might be that you have seasonal affective disorder, and it could be anxiety or depression is how it manifests itself. And this might be very helpful treatment, and you do it at home. One of those suckers costs $70, and it's very helpful. It helps my kids who need it, and highly recommended. So this is what you can learn in psychotherapy, i.e. counseling, same thing. You learn how to reduce your symptoms that you have so that you can start to feel better. That's one of the main things right away. And then you learn how to adjust your attitude, your perception, how you see things, and then how you choose to react to things that are affecting you. Because we have control over how we behave. We limit our time and attention and energy to what we can't control, and don't spend too much time and effort trying if you are, you know, like the media, okay? I mean, media exposure was not good for us before the election. It was just a big fat downer most of the time. So, you know, that's something you can limit. That's under your control. And how and when to say no to things, like say, okay, I don't have any more time or effort or energy or, you know, to give. You know, if you're a doer giver, then you've got to learn to protect yourself too, so you don't burn out. So some people really need a lot of help with this, and how to delegate or ask for help. Some people are just so independent, they just like they've hit a wall, but they don't want to ask for help. And why not? And, you know, figure out why that's gone on and how to fix it. And then correcting distortions in thinking. There's all kinds of those that what we humans have. And reworking maladaptive beliefs or behavior that we formed along the way while we were growing up that aren't working for us anymore. So this is all just about learning and adapting. That's what it's about in therapy. And then getting medical treatment would be medications. Benzodiazepines are things like Xanax, Ativan, and Klonopin. Those are great for panic attacks, but that's about it. You know, they calm down your central nervous system, but they don't cure anything. And then selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, those are things like Lexapro and Prozac and Zoloft. Those are very good medications for augmenting your natural brain neurotransmitters that get worn down when you're under stress that's been enduring. So sometimes you need to take these in order, it's like brain vitamins, so to speak, for your neurotransmitters, which regulate our moods and our thoughts. So sometimes people are just too worn down in the brain. I mean, we work on the brain in psychotherapy. That's the organ that we help. And sometimes it needs a little medical help too. So how do you prevent burnout, depression, anxiety as much as possible? How do you keep yourself from getting too depleted? You be this jar, not this jar. This jar, you see there's room here for something goes wrong. You got some expansion room. You got a place to absorb something that you don't predict you're going to have to deal with, which is life, right? So a lot of us do this and then something else gets piled on top and then the whole darn thing tips over. You don't want to be that one. And you want to take care of yourself without guilt. Now, guilt is a very inappropriate emotion sometimes. And feeling guilty because you have to say no or else you're going to crack is inappropriate. You know, and a lot of times therapists teach people to ignore their guilt response that got formed along the way in their life, and it's maladaptive and inappropriate for saying no or taking care of themselves. Now, we'd never teach a narcissistic personality about that, but there's plenty of us caregivers types, or, you know, people who give too much of themselves that need to learn to say no without guilt. And so we talked about these things already, and physical activity, sleep, and nutrition. Duh. I mean, how many years have we been hearing this? Our whole lives, but it's real, it's true. And if you are taking good care of yourself in these areas, you will be more resilient no matter what happens. Very, very important. And even more so during a pandemic and when other people need you so much. And it sounds counterintuitive, but the more people need you, the more you need to be taking care of yourself. Knowing your own limits, sometimes that needs to be a learned behavior. And I know it was for me because I got burnt out even when I was raising 3 kids who had ADD, and I was the PTO mom and doing the stuff at church, and I burnt out even when I was a stay-at-home mother. I had to learn it then. And I've gotten really much better at this over my lifetime, and people can learn how to take better care of themselves. Make time for fun. Sometimes people, if they don't have their checklist done for all their work, won't think fun is an okay thing to do, but it really is helpful to regroup. Check off your tasks so you know you are getting stuff done. Prioritize, and this is about letting go of smaller things and taking some things off your plate. Like, okay, I'm going to have to resign that committee. That's a hard thing to do for some of us to do. We don't want to let anybody down. Then we, honor our commitments. But if it's affecting your health, it's a good time to take a hard look at that. And anybody who cares about you will understand. So what you can do, hopefully as a result, or if there's anything you've heard, in the time we've been talking about this, is to reflect on your life and think about, where do I need to take care of myself better? And what are the consequences likely to be if I don't? Because I'll bet everybody's been there at one time or another, and you don't really want to let yourself go there again when people are counting on you. And there will always be more work than there is time. Always, always. So how do you set boundaries on your work? This is very hard when people work remotely, especially. And now that we have our email on our phones and everything else. So that's where we can get into setting boundaries on our work. I don't answer my emails or my texts. Teach people when you will look at them. And, I watch people take calls, for work when they're out on their bike exercising, on the path. It's like, stop that. This is dangerous for you. And plus you're not really getting the full benefit of this exercise. How do you measure success? I mean, seriously, what is success for you? And maybe at some point in some people's lives, they have to think about, do I measure success in a way that's harming me or harming my family or whatever? Maybe there's other ways of thinking about success. I read a great book, and I can't recommend it enough, and it's called Younger Next Year. And the subtitle is Feeling 50 When You're 80. And it is about the benefit of self-care. how you can avoid some of the aging problems that Americans have. Like you look at people in other countries and, you've got those 100-year-old people who are still out there doing their work. How do they do it? Well, they take good care of themselves, first of all. And that book teaches you the benefits of exercise, sleep, and socialization. Where are we on time, Carol?
We are out of time, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's
Allison,
okay. This
but
is the last slide. So we're all right.
That's
So
great.
think about one thing you're going to do that will give you the biggest bang for the buck on taking good care of your body, and hence your mind. Take
I
care of
think,
the
Allison,
body.
this last sentence is commit to caring for your body, emotions, and spirit so you have something left to give. Absolutely epitomizes what we were trying to do here, to try and make sure that folks, we're all so wrapped up so often in what we're trying to do with our business and moving forward. And, we aren't maybe perhaps paying as much attention to ourselves as we should. So your presentation really helps to put it all in perspective. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
You're welcome.
We do have this as a recording, and we'll set up the opportunity for all of the chambers to receive this recording. I know that there was some concern. There was apparently some wrong links sent up to this. So we've missed a number of people who had signed up from various chambers up and down the Fox River Valley, but we will go ahead and make sure that they receive a copy of this. And if you wouldn't mind, Allison, your contact information at Delnor, please.
Pretty much it's the same. Delnor, we have the St. Charles Behavioral Health Facility, which isn't on Delnor's campus, but it is one of Delnor's entities. So that's what I mean when I say Delnor. So my contact information is Allison.Johnsen, JOHNSEN, at NM as in Northwestern Medicine.org, O-R-G. And phone number is 630-933-4618.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. We really do
You're welcome.
appreciate it. To those of you that were able to join us, thank you amidst a very busy calendar, I know, that are on each of your desks. And Anne-Marie, thank you from the perspective of Northwestern Medicine. We appreciate that. Join us next week. We'll be talking about collective trauma and coping during difficult times. Jamie Griffiths from Algonquin Lake in the Hills Chamber will be coordinating that one. There will be a different link for that meeting as there was for this one. So just watch your chamber websites. And to everyone else, stay well. Thanks again for joining us. Be careful with the weather ahead, and we'll hope to see you well soon. Thank you.
Thank you all. Good job, Allison.
Thank you.